I want to bring in my two medical sources tonight. Dr. Angela Rasmussen is a virologist at the University of Saskatchewan's Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization. She's also the science chair for the Save America movement. And Dr. Megan Ranney is an emergency physician and dean at the Yale School of Public Health. Dr. Ranney, these plans to get all of the passengers to their home countries, is it safe for them and also for the people in the countries that they're returning to?
It is safe for them. They are not currently symptomatic or critically ill, and they've got lots of precautions on those specialized planes. And from everything I've heard, it's safe for the home country as well. Now, as Maria just said, every country is handling this a little bit differently, but everyone who is on that cruise ship is going to be expected to quarantine, to monitor for symptoms, to undergo testing if they do get symptoms, and to basically be bubbled off from the rest of society to keep all of the rest of us safe in the off chance that there is the potential for further spread of the virus. I'm quite comfortable with what the World Health Organization and the European Commission is doing.
Dr. Rasmussen, do you have any concerns about the process of the passengers returning to their home countries?
So I don't actually have any concerns about this process from a scientific perspective, because I actually think that the process itself is completely suitable for this virus. We are fortunate in that hantaviruses are actually not very transmissible. So while they can be transmitted under certain circumstances from person to person, in general, they are not. And normal quarantine and isolation and respiratory protection procedures can take care of this. What I am, however, very concerned about is the fact that the US government has not been involved in this response at all, with the exception of repatriating the Americans who are on this cruise ship. And that actually bodes very poorly for future emerging viruses that may emerge like this. And this is one of the reasons why this is not strictly a scientific issue, and why I work with the Save America movement on this, because we are set up in a situation right now where we are looking at a virus that is actually not that transmissible and doesn't present that great of a risk to the general public. But what happens when the next one comes around and we have decided to sit this out?
Yep, maybe this is a bit of a practice run. Dr. Ranney, I see you nodding your head there.
Yeah, that is exactly my worry. I consider this a dry run for another virus that is with something that has pandemic potential. And unfortunately, with the United States pulling out of the World Health Organization, as well as recent changes in State Department funding that no longer require other countries to cooperate with us, we're setting ourselves up for being behind the eight ball in terms of the sharing of that critically time-sensitive scientific information, the sharing of protocols, the putting the best and brightest heads together across the world to keep not just Americans, but the rest of the globe safe. All of those systems have been dismantled over the last couple of years. And I'm not seeing, as Angie said, I'm not seeing signs that give me a lot of faith for the future, should we be exposed to a worse virus.
It is so important to consider. And I do want to talk a little bit about what is ahead, Dr. Rasmussen, for these 17 Americans as they are going to travel on board this specialized plane that has this biocontainment unit, and then they're going to quarantine in Nebraska. What does the next few weeks look like for these passengers?
You know, I have to say, for those passengers, they are probably going to have the roughest time of anybody on this cruise ship, besides the people who actually did get sick, assuming that these people have been exposed and they're at exposure risk, but they aren't going to eventually get sick. You know, they are in for basically a long, boring quarantine. And this is completely appropriate. And the University of Nebraska Medical Center has actually been designed for this very purpose, to keep people who may have an infectious disease that may present a risk to Americans, you know, safe and isolated and able to access the best medical care in case they do come ill, but also in a way that protects the rest of Americans from coming into contact with anything they may be infected with. This particular virus, as I mentioned before, is being transmitted person to person in the context of a cruise ship, which is a very different context from almost every other single context in the world, other than maybe a hospital or other close contact situations. So this is a completely appropriate way to prevent a risk to the general public while making sure that these folks who have been exposed are able to access the best kind of health care without exposing anybody else. And this is exactly what you should be doing to end an outbreak. Unfortunately, again, for the US, it looks like this is a great move, and it is, but this is about the only thing that we have done to respond to this outbreak. In years past, when we actually had a functioning public health system, we would have been the ones leading this. And that's not only important for health, as Dr. Ranney said, it's not only important for Americans' health and global health, it's actually extremely important for national security and global health security. So if America is going to just continue to sit these out and make sure that, sure, people who are affected are going to be taken care of as long as they're Americans, but we're not going to do anything else about anybody else in the rest of the world who is at risk, everybody in America is in a really, really bad position. And that's what I really, really hope people take home from this. Don't worry so much about hantavirus. Worry about whatever is coming next and our ability to prevent it and take care of everybody when it does happen.
Yeah, such important questions as we are going to be certainly looking to our public health officials. You say don't worry too much about the hantavirus, but I know that people are. They are going to worry about it. And Dr. Ranney, they're going to worry in particular, I think we've been hearing Americans worry about the kind they can contract from rodent feces if they come into contact with that. I think one of the advantages that these passengers have is that if they start having symptoms, they do possibly know exactly what it is that they're experiencing. That's so often not the case. I wonder, Dr. Ranney, what you would say to these people who are so concerned. They might be thinking twice now about how they're cleaning out their basements or they're doing something out in the shed or out in the barn. What would you say to them?
So hantavirus is not unknown in the United States. Over the past 20 years, we've had almost 900 cases across the US. Most of those are centered in the Southwest. Many viewers will remember Gene Hackman died because his wife had hantavirus. She expired, and then unfortunately he died from lack of water and food after she passed. So this is something that we know and that my fellow emergency physicians can recognize, particularly if there are areas where hantavirus is common. We know how to take care of you should you get it, although it does unfortunately have a high fatality rate and no directed treatment. What can you do if you're worried? First, don't worry about exposure from cruise ship passengers. That is incredibly unlikely. Do worry if you're someone who lives in the Southwest and you're potentially exposed to rodent droppings or urine. If you are in one of those states that has relatively high rates of hantavirus, wear a good quality mask. This will sound familiar, right? A KN95 or an N95 when you are sweeping or vacuuming. And as always, if you have symptoms, and early symptoms do seem like the flu, don't hesitate to go and get checked by your doctor. But know that hantavirus is going to be incredibly low on our differential diagnosis. Testing for it requires a send-out lab. This is an unlikely diagnosis, even in those Southwest states. This is not top of mind for most of us. You should be worrying more about norovirus or measles exposure or any of the other infectious illnesses that are tremendously common. And you should be worrying about the fact that we are not training the next generation of scientists or supporting the current scientists the way that we traditionally have due to cuts in science funding. And that's ultimately going to put all of us at more risk.
Very important things in focus as we are watching this stricken ship and the potential resolution here of what's going on board. Doctors Angela Rasmussen and Megan Ranney, thank you so much to both of you. We appreciate it. And